Hello and welcome to the CourseMaker podcast. Today I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Andrew Kamphey, who's the creator of Better Sheets, which is an online course about how to create better Google Sheets. So Andrew, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, let's begin by telling listeners a bit about your background, Andrew. How did you begin your journey?
But yeah, as a course maker, it's really weird. I made Better Sheets actually sort of out of anger. I don't know if that's a common thing. I was very angry at myself for not launching another product, a different product that I was trying to launch. And it was taking a long time of coding and a lot of stuff. And also with a co-founder, we just had a lot of stuff to do that we couldn't launch. And I was just really pent up with anger at myself for like, why haven't you launched this darn thing? And so quite literally, I was reading an article, and I will shout them out 100% of the time. The Next Web wrote an article. Someone on the Next Web wrote an article about the Google Sheets function you'll never use, something to that effect. And it was about the transpose function. And I had spent 5 years working in Google Sheets at a startup TV network. I literally created all of their operations with Google Sheets. And for 5 years, I Googled the heck every single day out of everything. Every question anyone had of like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? I Googled it, figured it out, and made it happen. I wrote a lot of Google scripts. I created a lot of different Google Sheets. And like for 5 years, I was working in the middle of Google Sheets. And now working on my own projects, I literally just use Google Sheets to like keep projects managed or to keep like create business models with my co-founder. And then I saw this Next Web article about the transpose function and formula that like they were like saying it, you'll never use this. And immediately I could think of 10 different uses for it. I'm like, I've used that so many times. And from this anger, I had so much anger over this article that I was like, wait, there is literally no resource right now that exists that shares with you creative uses of these functions. I went through my last 5 years of like Googling these functions and figuring out how to do X, having a step-by-step article that said like, oh, you have to use this formula plus this formula plus this formula. And I was like, what if it was the other way around? What if it was like, here's really creative uses for this function that you never thought you would use, or here's this creative use of this function that you've always used in this one way, but if you add it to this other formula, it does this whole different thing. Because I could remember that there was like a function, like indirect acts differently depending on if it's inside of a function or if it's on its own. You can make functions work different ways if you have them called to different cells. And I was like, wait, like all of this I had in my mind in literally just a minute. And I was like, oh, well, I better just make this thing.
Right.
And so literally that, I think I read that article like on a Wednesday, and then on a Friday for 24 hours, I set myself a challenge. I said, I'm going to launch this thing today. Like in 24 hours, I'm going to launch this. And so I made 8 videos. I made 4 available for free on the landing page and 4 were paid. And it was the most shoddy, like ripcord kind of like, just get it done, launch it. And nobody bought it. Nobody cared. But then like 3 days later on Monday, after I launched it, someone bought it. And within 24 hours of buying it, they sent me a before and after screenshot of their Google Sheets.
Okay.
And they were like, I just watched your videos and did this. It's amazing. Like, thank you so much. And I was like,
right.
I didn't ask for it. Like I saw the person bought it and I like emailed them and said, oh, thanks for buying this. I haven't set up a welcome email. There were so many things I haven't set up, but like you have access to the videos now. And yeah, like and later that day I got that like gushing email and I was like, oh, this is actually going to work. This actually changes people's lives.
That's an amazing bit of feedback.
Yeah. And then it was another 2 weeks until I got another sale. This was like such a roller coaster. And then it was like 2 weeks that I didn't get any sales. And I struggled so much, but I struggled with by just pushing out stuff. I added like another 15 videos per week. So by the time the next person bought it, it was already like 5x the size that it was before. And I had already made myself a personal mission. I had no sales goals, no revenue goals. I literally had the only goal was to make 100 videos.
I definitely want to dig more into this creative process and everything. But before we do that, can you talk a little bit more about that 5 year period, and you're using Google Sheets
Mm-hmm.
intensively there for listeners who maybe haven't used Google Sheets that much? Like, what sort of stuff were you able to do with it?
Yeah, it's so funny now. Like, if you asked me this question before I did Beta Sheets, I wouldn't have any answer. Like, I have now I think there's somewhere between 1,500 and 1,600 people who've bought Better Sheets up until now. As we're recording this, more and more buy it every day. But I've talked to now probably 300 to 500 of those people, and I've sort of uncovered this nascent demand because for Google Sheets, like creative uses of Google Sheets that I didn't know. Like, when I was using Google Sheets, I didn't know these things were possible. And a few of the weird things that I created, it's not going to sound weird now, but I created an entire CRM, a customer relationship management system inside of a Google Sheet. The key point of this was that we had working on our customer outreach were 8 separate people, and they needed to assign each other like customers. I can actually say more about this, but I don't want to say it exactly because I don't want to. It was like hard to find a piece of software, a CRM, even 6 years ago, that like we could use right away in exactly the way we needed it. Every CRM is usually built for like a mature company that's able to pay, $20 per user per month. But it
Sure.
was like we were a startup. We didn't really have cash. No one on the team knew who could pay for it either. Like, we're just like, we just need to outreach to these people and then mark where it is. Oh, and also the person who worked before us, we all got like hired at the same time. So 7 people started on a Google Sheet that one person maintained for 6 months. And it was really difficult to figure out, like, yeah, do we take this data and just put it into a new system and then we all learn this one system? Well, this person has used this Google Sheet for 6 months and they'll continue to use it even if we switch to another system. So it's actually easier if we all go to their system. But then that person got maniacal is the wrong word, but like, it was very stressful for that one person to teach 7 other people how to use their sheet that they've been using for 6 months.
Yeah.
And that person was not able to quickly switch because they've been using that for 6 months. It would be even more stressful for them to switch over to a new system. So I was a PA in this company and I had no business doing this, except I had a couple hours every day after work because it was LA and I didn't really want to sit through traffic. So I just sat in the office after work. And I noticed this going on, and I had already had Excel VBA experience from a previous job when I got really lazy getting information into an Excel sheet from other people that I was like, oh, fill this in and Excel VBA will do it for us. So I was like, oh wait, Google Script does the same thing as Excel VBA. All I have to do is figure out I know how to do it in VBA. How can you do it in Google Sheets? So I happen to know what to Google for, whereas no one else had that background. There was an entertainment company. They were all like very good at their job, except not Googling stuff. And so within 2 weeks, about 2 hours per day after work, I coded these Google scripts to essentially be a CRM. When these statuses changed, they went to different pages. When people wanted to assign other people something, or they found duplicates, sort of all the basic features of a CRM, people could see their own view instead of looking at a master sheet and sifting through it. And one of the weirdest problems that happens all the time when 2 or 3 people want to use a sheet and everybody wants to sort it in a different way. So you have filter, but if you click filter, it changes the view for everyone. So I had to create little tabs for each person that then filtered their thing so they could just work on it. And because I hadn't worked on this sheet, I had no anxiety towards like telling someone how to use it. So I had to teach everyone how to use the sheet. And literally like 2 months later, I got a promotion to operations director or something. I forgot the title. And I just continued making Google Sheets. And I scraped YouTube. We had to grab YouTube information. I was using Google Sheets like 5 years ago to scrape YouTube information. Figured out a way to get every single video off of a channel. Previously, we had been literally, there was like 8 people copy and pasting information from a channel to a sheet. And I was like, oh, you could just use import XML for that. And here's a little code, done.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing how much a little technical know-how can transform operations in a non-technical company. And it sounds like you had a lot of experience there teaching others how to use these things. Do you think that informed how you went about creating your course?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, it's hard to tell one person, like, here's how you use the sheet. But like, I got to do it 8 times, like, because every position had like 8 people doing it. There were like 8 PAs, 8 producers, 8 outreach people. And so I got this weird amount of experience of iterating, teaching someone. So I could see like, oh, that worked when I told them, here, do this first. And then the next person I was like, hey, do this first. Don't listen to me blather over here. Or I would make videos for them. This is, well before there was a thing called Loom. Loom sort of saved my life here. I literally couldn't have done Better Sheets without the program called Loom to record a video. And like, I also knew 5 years ago, having someone in the room with you, guiding your eye, guiding your hand, is 100x better than reading a step-by-step tutorial. But you sort of need it all. Like, every single person on earth learns in a different way. And video tends to be the best because it's visual and audio at the same time. So if you learn visually, you'll understand a video, and if you learn auditorially, you'll get a video. If you do need to read it, then you're probably not a good Better Sheets user member, because like, you're probably already Googling stuff and you're used to reading and you want to read it, and you maybe read faster than you can watch a video. But also, that's like 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, no, it's true. And everybody does learn differently, but yeah, video sort of perhaps captures a larger swathe of people.
And it's also like, the person is important here, that it is a person instead of like a step-by-step tutorial written by someone later, like that the person is there giving you that energy, the flow of things, knowing how long things take. I noticed when I was Googling things like a few years ago, or even just this year, I still Google a lot of stuff. A lot of people ask me questions I do not know the answer to. And I'll notice a video will, obviously for obvious reasons, if you post a video on YouTube, you want to edit it and you want to cut out all of the the time waiting. But my videos, I specifically do not edit, not necessarily out of laziness, but actually it becomes a really good thing to know exactly how long does something take.
I see.
When I click that button, I will tell you, oh, this is going to take a while. I'm going to pause the video and come back in a second, but it took a while. Or I'll just sit there waiting for it to happen and be like, oh, that took like 5 to 6 seconds. It'll take that for you as well.
Yeah. And did I understand correctly? You said you'd spoken with some 300 or so of the students?
Yeah, I would say at least 3. I mean, by email, by some I've been on a call with like a couple, but mostly by email, by them sending back looms with very asynchronous conversations. Like, they'll send me a loom being like, hey, I can't figure out how to do this. And then my answer is not like, oh, here's the answer. My answer is like, I have no idea how to do this, but here's the direction I would start. And then they'll send another video and be like, okay, I did that, and here's what happened. But now I'm at this other stopping point, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, good. I didn't know that would happen. Okay, here. And so those conversations happen asynchronously, but they're conversations still.
Yeah, I mean that's really valuable for an instructor to have those touch points with students. How would you say your approach to teaching has changed as a result of those conversations?
Well, immediately. Okay, so one of the biggest things is I knew the day I started this that every single question anyone asks me is going to, I'll reply in a video, and that video is going to be a video that's available to everyone.
Right.
Or at least that was the intention. And since then, for my own sort of time saver, sometimes I will purposefully not make a video available to everyone because I just didn't want to give the context of the question. Like, I got the question, I know the answer, it's going to be a 30-second video, or it's going to be a 5-minute video, because I'm like, here's a few ways that I would do this, but it's not a concrete like way. I can't really title it properly, and like, you really have to have the context of the question or their biases to know, like, oh, this is why you did it this way. So since then, I think I made something like 280 total videos. 143 of them are available to everyone. The excess are ones I've answered one person that they got that one video. Makes me feel more like like I never thought about this before, but it's going to be a part of how I switch in the next couple of months or a year. Those are private videos. Those are like you would sell that on Cameo, or you would sell that on OnlyFans. And I don't think I would have done that unless those things existed in the zeitgeist, and I knew, like, oh, you can sell. I'm going to send this one person this one video for X amount of dollars. I don't think I would have done that if I didn't think in the back of my head, oh, that's a monetizable the access is monetizable.
Yep. And from these interactions with students, what would you say the most successful students do differently?
Just try. Oh my God. I have so many emails that I've answered their email, but I just literally don't have an answer to. Like, they never replied back. They haven't replied, hey, this didn't work, which is, I guess, okay. But also, they never replied, hey, yeah, what you told me to do did work, and here's the result. Those who do answer, I noticed, like, are way more excited to continue, and they're not a drain. In the indie hacker world and sort of bootstrapper and like software engineering world that I'm sort of a part of, customer service is looked down upon mightily. Like, to answer an email, you want to do it in as quickly as possible and maximize your sort of profitability. Whereas for me in this particular course, I think if I can actually solve your problem and help you, you're going to be an advocate for me. When somebody derails me, you'll be an advocate in the face of to defend me. But you'll also go out and just speak nicely about me, and I want that.
Sure.
So I have noticed that, like, those who reply and share that result are really excited, and they'll do more. They'll actually finish their project. Yeah, I don't know if that was the answer to your question. If you want to ask a question again.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, effectively, like, starting up the dialogue, a little bit of accountability there, right, as well, just by showing your results as a student.
Yeah, and I thought of this very early on, and then I saw very little of it. But I really, really, really like the idea of like a show and tell, or case studies, or something that shows, like, this is what students are doing. And it really, I hope this doesn't come across as bad, because I think this is really nice, but it sounds really terrible. But like, when you're a kid and you have like an art showcase, like, and you bring your parents, like the point isn't like you made a piece of art, but that you showed it. Like, the point of art is to be seen. Like, the point of Google Sheets and using Google Sheets and making them better for yourself or for others that are using it is to share that experience.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't mean to compare show and tell to like a child's art. art show, but I don't know. It has a good feeling in my case.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, time is flying by. So let me just ask you about what's coming next for you and for Better Sheets.
Yeah. So the main, so I get emails, and also because I've sold Better Sheets on AppSumo, AppSumo has a review board. Like you can go onto AppSumo now, go to the Better Sheets page and see 40 reviews. Now, these reviews are 100% truthful, and sometimes they hurt, but like in a good way. So people will email me, and they'll email me their complaints about what's wrong, and I will notice patterns and try my hardest to fix them in the way that I can, like that I'm capable of fixing them. Some of those problems I just physically cannot fix. Like structurally, the payment page or something is like set up in a certain way that it won't like automatically redirect you. It's like, yes, you do have to read this PDF. But the PDF only exists because a bunch of people asked me, like, what are some of the videos that what are some of the first videos that I should watch? And I was like, oh, it depends on X, Y, and Z. So let me write a PDF. Here, read this. And now no one's asking me. Literally, I get 0 questions asking me what's the first videos I should watch because I've provided that. And so the answer to your original question is like, I've tried to iterate as much as possible and not do big, huge changes to it. But I do have planned a really big change where right now it still is a single folder of videos with titles. And that still is the major complaint. I've done as much as I physically can around that. So like I've made a Google Sheet of all the videos. You can mark them off as you watch them. Given you a PDF of like, here's the first, this will keep you busy for 2 weeks kind of thing. If you get past this, you're really dedicated. I'm happy to email you. People email me questions. There's a Google form you can fill out to ask specific questions. And I ask you I have you tell me the sort of few things you need to say for me to help you as best as I can. All of that needs to be iterated again. And that's going to be a big change where all of that gets pushed into one place, where instead of having all of these pieces, it'll be a very streamlined way. Actually, that reminds me, one of the earliest complaints is like, why don't you use a learning management system? And
Right.
like an LMS, which every CourseMaker, from what I know, 100% of them use an LMS. Some of them are a platform like Udemy, or some of them are like Fresh LMS, or some of them are Teachable. From what I have gathered, maybe you can tell me something different. None of them are capable of handling a non-linear course.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's probably correct.
So I've done as much research as I could until I realized I don't want to continue researching it. So I'm literally hard coding this myself of like, yes, there are going to be paths that you can take if you say, hey, I want to take a certain path. Like I want to take a path. I want to go in the way. And the way I've solved this before is like, oh, just watch the videos in the order that I've produced them. Because that's sort of a simple way to do it. But then it's like you're watching 143 videos, and like not everything is going to be good for you. And like you're going to at least take some time watching the first few moments. You're like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I have a test website that I've been coding myself that uses Algolia search JavaScript to give you a little bit of search capability instead of scrolling through titles and reading them. Right now, there's no mark as seen, which in the Google Sheet that I give you, it does have a checkbox. You can mark it as seen, and you can count down to seeing all of them. Also, certification. This might sound weird, but I'm going to have a Better Sheets certification where you watch, but then you apply the what you learned and what you saw. And I think that will then create a ton more before and after photos of like, here's a sheet. apply the processes that I showed you in this video and then have the after, and then you can see them side by side. I think that'll be really cool. So yeah, I think it's just a lot of hard coding because like it doesn't exist. A non-linear video course is just not a thing. Like I haven't heard anyone else do it.
That's really cool. The choose your own adventure approach.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of exciting stuff coming along soon. Where can listeners go to find out more about you and to find Better Sheets?
Yeah, bettersheets.co.
Bettersheets.co. We'll make sure that's in the show notes.
And that'll get you everywhere. That'll get you, there's a bunch of free videos on there that'll link you to the YouTube if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which I've put out like 40 of around 140 videos are free on YouTube. Then I also have a newsletter, and you'll find the link somewhere there, but I just want to push you to bettersheets.co. And then if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can find it there.
Perfect. Well, Andrew, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much.